Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is the second session of the 2021 Installer Summit, hosted by GCP Europe and EuropeOn, the mechanical and electrical associations in Brussels. I'm today greeting you from Brussels with Claire Grossman, who is the GCP Secretary-General. My name is Julie Beaufils. I'm the Secretary-General of EuropeOn. So we are together for 1 hour and a half. This is the second and last session that we have today. I'd like to navigate through the agenda very shortly with you. So we will first have an introduction by our president, followed by a keynote speech from the European Commission, from Mr. Tim Schreiber. And then we'll have a panel discussion with electrical and mechanical contractors, electrical and mechanical representatives as well, around the topic which is interesting us this afternoon, enabling the deployment of smart buildings with new skills and jobs. If you were with us in the first session, we discussed market trends, and so now we are looking at the jobs, the careers, the skills behind the new trends for our sector. If we can move to the next slide. Okay, so just a few reminders. We welcome your questions, so please feel free to write in the question box. You can see it on the right-hand side of your screen. You can write questions at any moment, and we'll come back to it at the end of the event. And yeah, well, that's roughly it. So let's go for it before the weekend starts. So next slide, please. And I'd like to give the floor to our very new president at EuropeOn. Martin Bailey was elected yesterday. So, well, first, Martin, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And please let us know your few points on to start this session. Thank you very much.
Yes, good afternoon to everyone today. I'm really pleased to see that we have so many people attending from all over Europe and the wider world. I think it shows all of our interests in the installation sector and the relevance of our contribution to the green and the digital Europe. I'm also glad to see you all here with our colleagues from GCP, and I think we have managed to go together quite a varied and captivating speakers today. I think as I welcome you here, I feel like I must talk a little bit about EuropeOn. Since 1954, we are the European Association of Electrical Contractors. We represent the national associations of electrical contractors. In short, electrical contractors are responsible for the installation and the maintenance of electrical systems and devices in your house, your office, your supermarket, your hospital, and in all sorts of buildings. And we also work on electrical transport and infrastructure. With the digital and green transition, our activities are fast evolving, and they are no longer limited to installation. And maybe we should actually go and call our summit the Integrators Summit. This is also true when it comes to our counterparts and co-hosts, GCP Europe, who represent the HVCA contractors. At GCP and in EuropeOn, we all make the same observation. Electrical and mechanical contractors have a massive role to play in the energy transition if we are able to transform our jobs to match the new challenges and are able to go and attract new and motivated professionals to our sectors. We are increasingly echoing these opportunities and challenges across Europe. Since 2019, EuropeOn launched the Skills for for Climate campaign aimed at raising EU policymakers' awareness on the need to intertwine climate and skills policies. This led us to discuss with the EU Commissioners Breton and Schmidt and to sign the EU Pact for Skills in 2021. This year, we also created a skills working group within EuropeOn, to which we invite our GCP friends to go and share ideas and best practices. In particular, we have worked on the positive and the negative cliches that stick to the electrical and mechanical sectors, as you can see on the slide. In July, we released a new study estimating the job potential of the electrical contracting sector in Europe by 2030, focusing on the jobs that the renovation wave and the prosumer model can bring. The main figures on this slide, and they show that we can indeed make a great contribution to a sound recovery across Europe, provided that the right skills and the training is implemented. This conference is split into two sections. Earlier today, the first session went to look to business opportunities and especially smart buildings. Now we are looking at how this can be translated into new exciting professions with new skills. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the European Commission on how they are able to assist European governments on these trends. I'm also very curious to hear from our colleagues on some pioneer examples. And finally, I'm really delighted that we will hear the testimony of a 23-year-old electrical apprentice. He, after all, is the next generation of our sector. I trust that everyone today should have some good takeaways at the end of our session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. And so without further ado, indeed, I would like to turn to Tim Schreiber, who is Policy Officer at DG Ample, the Directorate-General for Employment at the European Commission. We are working more and more closely with the European Commission on skills and jobs. So I'm really happy that this is, well, the next step in this cooperation and in this dialogue. And so, Tim, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Julie. Thank you very much, Martin, for the invitation to share some of my ideas and of our ideas concerning the skills that are needed for the green transition, the kind of support that the EU level can provide, and also how all this is related to education and training with you. Just before I start, I am working in the European Commission in DG Employment in the unit that is focusing on vocational education and training. So most of the examples I will provide are referring to vocational education and training, but I also work more broadly on the skills for the green transition, also beyond the VET sector. Now, to start from the very big picture, it's clear that this European Commission's political agenda has focused on the European Green Deal since its very beginning. It has become the main growth strategy for the EU with the beginning of this Commission. And in July this year, we have outlined very concretely in the Fit for 55 initiative how we plan to manage to actually reduce net CO2 emissions by at least 55% until 2030 compared to 1990. And just to underline what a big challenge that is, between 1990 and 2019, we managed to reduce CO2 emissions by 24%, which means that between 2019 and 2030, within 11 years, we have to manage a bigger effort than has been achieved within 29 years between 1990 and 2019. Now, the construction sector in general, but also in more particular the sectors that you represent, are of course key for the green transition and are absolutely necessary if we want to reach these very ambitious CO2 reduction targets. It's clear that such an ambitious, both economic but also societal transition will also have considerable impacts on the labor market. And as you have shown for your sectors, Overall, we also expect that this employment impact will be positive, though it is only slightly positive overall, because of course, on the one hand, there will also be sectors that will experience net job losses, for example, in mining or in sectors that heavily rely on fossil fuel. However, overall, our projections show that within the EU, by 2030, we will have net 1.2 million jobs in addition because of the green transition, and into around 2 million additional jobs by 2050. Now, the green transition will create new jobs, a few jobs will be destroyed, but in our view, the main change will be the transformation of many existing jobs across the whole economy, including in the sectors that you represent, meaning that specific occupational profiles will change. They will not disappear, they will not appear from the scratch, but they will just change. The tasks of these occupational profiles will change. And this shift will require what we broadly refer to as skills for the green transition, which on the one hand, in our view, are very occupation, sector-specific professional skills, but also more transversal skills, such as the famous science, technology, engineering, and mathematics skills, so the STEM skills, digital skills, but also soft skills. For example, working in teams will become much more important. Creative thinking, developing new solutions, and also making decisions in an environment where the outcome is not very clear because of the fast transition. Now, I am convinced that we need to equip people with these skills if we want to ensure that the transition is fair and inclusive, and that is, of course, for us in the European Commission, extremely important. We also need to equip people with these skills if we want to reach the full job potential of the green transition, because these positive scenarios that I outlined before will only materialize if we make sure that we have the workers that can do the jobs. And I know that in the construction sector, the question of skills shortages has already been an issue before the green transition in many countries, and it's clear that we have to make sure that we also have the workforce to make the green transition happen. Now, if we look at the situation today, unfortunately, we see that only less than 2 in 5 adults participate in learning every year. And given the challenge that I've outlined before and that you're all very well aware of, this is clearly not enough if we want to prepare our workforce for the big change that is ahead of us, not only because of the green transition, but also because of the digital transition. We have therefore suggested in the so-called Social Pillar Action Plan that at least 60% of Europeans should participate in training every year by 2030, coming from a level that is below 40%. I'm very happy that EU leaders welcome this EU target at their summit this year in Porto. But now the question is, of course, how can we make that happen? And therefore, let me give in a second part of my presentation a short overview of some examples how the EU level can support member states in this endeavor. Because it is very clear that education and training policy, which is key to equip people with these skills, is first of all a national competence. It's not an EU competence. But what the EU can do is to provide fora for exchanges of best practices, to learn from each other, to bring stakeholders from different member states together, to exchange practices, to develop common ideas. The Pact for Skills was mentioned. I'm very happy that you are a signature of the Pact for Skills, because this is exactly one of the examples where on EU level we can bring stakeholders from specific sectors together to work on developing new skills policies. And of course, the EU level also provides through funding, concrete support, for example, through the Erasmus Plus program, but also now through the unprecedented amount of funding that is available through the Recovery and Resilience Fund. So this fund that was created to support member states to recover from the COVID-19 economic crisis as well. More specifically regarding the green transition, we have set out our European Commission's approach last year in the so-called European Skills Agenda, where we defined 5 very concrete actions how to support the development of skills for the green transition. Just to give you one example, we stated there in the skills agenda that we will help integrate environmental and climate considerations into education and training more broadly, including vocational education and training, of course, and adult learning. And one concrete deliverable that we are currently working on is the Council recommendation So an EU level legislative document, but a recommendation on education for environmental sustainability. And we expect this proposal to be published in December this year. More general, I think it is important that we also focus on the individual, because if we want to make this lifelong learning culture that I mentioned before a reality, it will also be key to empower individuals themselves to develop skills throughout life, and also to change mindsets, that that learning does not end at the end of initial education and training, but that lifelong learning has to become a new imperative. And this is exactly the objective of two upcoming Commission initiatives that we also announced in the European Skills Agenda. One on individual learning accounts, which will support individual workers to participate in learning, and our upcoming initiative on a European approach to micro-credentials. So micro-credentials refer to the outcomes of short courses that focus on specific skills, so we are not talking about whole degrees. And with this European initiative that is upcoming, we want to make it easier to value and recognize the outcomes of such courses, the so-called micro-credentials. And we think that if these outcomes are better valued and more recognized, it will also be an incentive for workers to participate in such courses, and will also motivate people in general to learn more. What we also need is education and training systems to be more flexible and to keep up with the increasing pace of the transformation. I'm mostly talking about the green transition, but of course we also have the digital transition, which is also changing the labor market, but also society as such at an unprecedented level. And it's really difficult also for education and training systems to keep up with this pace of transformation. Therefore, we try at EU level to bring together stakeholders from vocational education and training and education and training systems more general, together with private stakeholders, to work together on developing solutions to respond to these changes. One very concrete example that I wanted to share with you are the so-called Centers of Vocational Excellence, which are funded under Erasmus+, which bring together a wide range of local partners. These are vet providers, but also employers, employment services, and others, to work together to develop a local skills ecosystem to contribute to local innovation and smart specialization, but always in cooperation with international partners from within the EU and outside the EU. This, I think, is a very promising model, and it is also very closely related to skills for the green transition, because we saw that in last year's call for proposals, there were 7 centers of vocational excellence that were selected, and 3 of them focus on green topics, and 1 more focuses on microelectronics. Also very interesting, I think, for you to point to this example. And we think that initiatives like this will also help to attract more young people to sectors such as yours, which suffer from a shortage of skilled labor and which are faced with the challenge how to attract more people to this profession. And we think that in general, an attractive vocational education and training system can help to compensate that. Let me conclude that I think vocational education and training is in a very important position to drive the green, but also the digital transition. We see on the one hand initial VET, which is key to equip young people with the skills that they will need for their career in a greener, but also a much more digital working life. We see that young people in general are well equipped with digital skills, but the digital skills that we consider advanced today, for example, will probably be only basic digital skills within 10 years. So we have to make sure to equip them with the best kind of skills that are available today, but then also encourage them to continue learning afterwards. At the same time, the so-called continuing VET is essential when it comes to up and reskilling today's workforce, because if we want to make sure that those people that are on a job today that will not have to change their job, but just have to modify their set of tasks, we have to make sure that we also provide the training opportunities that they need. I'm very much looking forward now to hearing some concrete examples from your sector, how you tackle these challenges, what solutions you have developed already, because I think that it's very clear that the challenge we face is huge, but so also the opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tim, for your presentation, and I think that it provided us with a good framework to really start the discussion. That we see a bit how the European Union is working, reflecting on the skills agenda. And you were asking for concrete examples. I think we cannot be much more concrete than where we are going now, because I'm now moving to Switzerland. I would like to introduce Dani Gerber, who is an electrical apprentice. He's 23 years old, and I think that's the first time that we've been able to connect in such a format with a young apprentice. So I'm really honored to have Daniel with us. And I also want to thank Gérard Constantin, who until yesterday was our president at EuropeOn. He's from Switzerland, and that's really a lot thanks to him that we were able to reach Daniel. I think that we want to do that much more often now and really have this strong connection with electrical contractors and especially with apprentices to hear what they think on the future of their trade, because, well, they are the next generation. So please, Daniel, thank you so much for being with us and really looking forward to your comments.
Thank you very much that I can be here. I'm very proud to tell you my story, my way from school to European champion, and I think I will start with my school. I was a normal boy which goes to school and play football and so on, and after that with 10 years, I started to be a ski racer in alpine skiing. And I trained a lot in skiing club and for myself. And at this time, I started too with mental training, and yes, the discipline was very important for me to bring a good competition in skiing. I make it to the regional squad, and with an age of 16 years, I started my apprenticeship as an electrician. And there was a combo of skiing and working. When I was 17 years old, I was hit by a bad blow. I had a diagnostic of acute leukemia, that means cancer, and after that I had chemotherapy for 2 years. That was a very, very hard time for me. I had no power. I have all time was sleeping and so on. But after these 2 years, now I'm okay. And then I have to continue my training, also an electrician, but I stopped with ski racing. It was too much for me, and I completed my apprenticeship with the final examination, which was a very good examination. And so I found a new challenge in skills competitions. So I go to a regional skills competition, and after that I took a part in the national Swiss skills competition, and with the third place of this competition I secured my participation to the Euroskills in Budapest in 2018. And so now I go from a ski racer to a electricity racer. And now again, a lot of training, a lot of discipline, a lot of instruction for me, just like skiing. And I was able at the Euroskills competition to deliver a top performance and to reach 796 points out of 800 points. And so I had the winning overall Euroskills from all competitions. And so I was the Euroskills master. And now I'm very proud of this. And then I could really enjoy my success. But after that, I set a new goal. To have to go on always in life. And so I went back to school to be a licensed project manager for electrical installation and safety. It's a federal diploma of higher education. And at this time, I was still in my iFactory, which I started my apprenticeship. And after that, I had a really difficult examination again, but I passed it, and now I again have a new challenge for me. Now I'm again back to school, and my way is to the licensed electrical installation and safety expert now. And this is very important for me. In Switzerland, you need this to own a factory in electricity. And now that's my way. I'm still working for the same company. I'm very happy with my job, and I'm still at school, and I think to learn every time new things is the most important thing we can have, and electricity is for me the future. Now we are driving with electricity. I think we live with electricity now, and that's for me a point I will never change to another I don't know the word, but I'm still I will be in 50 years still an electrician. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much for this presentation. I think that, yeah, everybody is smiling.
Danke vielmals, Dani.
Yeah, sorry, you can't see him on screen because the camera is not as agile as we hoped, but Gerard is clapping and thanking you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Daniel. Daniel cannot stay with us for the whole afternoon because, well, he has to study and work while we just have to, sit and speak on screens. So if you have questions, please go to the question box. I see that there's already one question from Jan, who's another panelist today. And okay, so yeah, so Jan from the Netherlands is asking you, Daniel, this question. He asks you, how do you see your role in the energy transition as an electrician?
I think my role in the energy transition is in my company, in my factory. I will give my best to bring new technologies to our clients and give my best with my company. And another part is maybe when I understand a little bit more in English to join events like this.
Okay, wow. Well, you are always welcome, just so you know. I do have one question for you, Daniel, because so you are studying, you had a license, now you are going one step further. I wanted to ask you, do you feel that education is providing you all the skills that you need, for the new challenges coming in the electricity sector, in the electrical sector? Do you feel that everything is super modern, super ready in training facilities in Switzerland, or do you feel that sometimes it's a bit, lagging behind? What's your feeling on that?
I think if I understand correctly, in electricity, the basement is always the same, but we have a lot of new technology. And if I understand the new technology, I can make enormous connections and have a knowledge for functionalities which is good for me, and it gives me a really good feeling. And so I always try to learn modern and new things to make all these connections.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that what I retained from your speech, Daniel, is that the two big drivers that you have, at least you as an individual, are really the competition side. And I must say that I'm learning every day more about Euro skills and what it can bring to young professionals. So yeah, competition seems like a really good driver for you, and also learning new things all the time. And yeah, I think that in the electrical contracting sector, given all the new challenges, you will never stop being curious and learning more. So that's an excellent driver. Okay, well, thank you very much. I don't think there is more question, except if one of our panelists wants to ask another question to Daniel before we go to the next presentation. No, everybody is humbled by your presentation, Daniel. So thank you very much again. And I think that this afternoon you go on holidays after work, so we'll have a really great time. And I hope that we engage again in the near future, because indeed we want to work with you. We want to hear what you have to say and how you feel in the trade. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much too. It was really, really nice, and I'm proud to be a part of you. Thank you.
Super. Thanks. Bye. Okay, so now we don't go really far from Switzerland. We go to Germany, actually. So I would like to present our third speaker of the day. His name is Alexander Neuhäuser. He's the Deputy Managing Director at ZVEH. I hope it was okay. And ZVEH is the German Association of Electrical Contractors. And so Alexander will talk about qualifications in Germany, and a new apprenticeship that they have started just this year. So maybe we already have the first feedback from this launch. And I know that many of the EuropeOn members were super curious about this apprenticeship. So hopefully we'll learn more today, and it will be beneficial to the entire audience. So please, Alexander, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Julie, also for having this very inspiring presentation by a real apprentice. And no one should say that we don't have young people taking responsibility for the future. So we have them, so we have to support them to get everything done. This is our job now. As Martin said, we are talking more about the Integrators Summit today. And what I'm trying to provide to you is the profession we created to cover that. First of all, our association in Germany is representing 50,000 companies with 515,000 employees. We are very proud that we have 45,000 apprentices in our sector, and our sector has a turnover of 68.4 billion euro in Germany. So it's one of the biggest crafts in Germany for sure. But yeah, you never should sleep. We had to adjust to the market to understand what we did with this new profession. First of all, I would like to introduce how qualification in Germany is structured. Next slide, please. I will do it. So my presentation is split into parts. First, about the apprenticeship in Germany to understand what we did, and then the electro-technician for building system integration in the second part. Next slide, please. Next, please. Yeah, what we have in Germany is a system called dual training. Dual training means that the apprentices are part-time in the enterprise, most of the time in the enterprise, doing practical work. So it's training on the job. And the other part is being educated in the school. Duration of the training is approximately 3.5 years. It ends with an public acknowledged certificate. Like Daniel said before, after running through this apprenticeship, you don't have the possibility to run a company from the start. To do that, you need to do some extra qualification in becoming a Meister. But the profession or the trainings are required by law because of labor security, because handling electrician is a difficult job, and also our labor insurances demand to be educated in Germany. So next slide, please. That's just a picture. A little bit deeper, dual apprenticeship means training in the company and in professional schools. But we also have a thing called cross-company training. We need that because not each company is covering everything. So the apprentices also have to visit those kinds of cross-company company trainings. And after that, you end with a legally recognized certificate. Next slide, please. Our new profession is not the only one we have. There are different training programs for different demands and schemes. We have several electro-technicians with specializations for energy and building technologies, for automation and system technologies. This is a profession more for industry services. Then the new profession is electro-technician for building systems integration. We have the pure information electro-technician, and also a more industry-related profession is the electro-technician for machines and drives, which is also providing services to the industry, to facilities, factories, and so on. Next, please. Legal basis in Germany is a training ordinance, which is published by the Ministry of Economics. We are creating the framework plans for the companies, and there's also the so-called Kultusministerkonferenz, which is structuring the framework plans for the professional schools. And then the teaching plans, as I said, for the cross-company training is also designed by us. Next, please. This is just to give you an impression that the whole system is covered and legally recognized. The government is involved in setting up new professions, and also the civil society. It's a very complex thing to set up a new profession in Germany, but after all, we are ending with a consensus between all of the stakeholders, which is very important to create a good awareness for a new profession. Next, please. Yeah, as I said, the next level of education in Germany is the Meister. The Meister is allowed to run a company. We have 3 Meister levels or 3 Meister professions. It's the Electro-technician, the Information technician, and the Electro-machine builder. And all of these Meister professions cover the specific professions for the apprentices. Next, please. That I explained something about that before. Also, the Meister is public acknowledged examination, and it's a very important qualification in Germany because it's providing the security we need. And also the Meister is the person in the company who is allowed to teach the apprentices. So next, please. Next, please. I think we can go over that. So now about the Electro-technician for building system integration. Next slide, please. We had to do a mix-up because before we had 7 professions in Germany covered by our association. Now we have 5. So where there has been a little bit of trimming the profiles. The biggest profession in Germany right now is the electro-technician with a specialization for energy and building technology, with more than 33,000 apprentices in the sector. The electro-technician for building system integration is completely new. There has been no role model before to do that. So we are, let's see. We are getting experiences in pushing that into the market. But next slide, please. I think it's the right thing to do right now. Our motivation and mission has been to cover the growing demand of merging all the technologies in the building. That's what Martin meant by we are the integrators. I mean, in the building before, and also Daniel said, it's about technology, future technology, sector coupling and everything. But there has to be someone who's able to take care integrating all the systems in the building. And that's why we set up the new profession. Also, technology will play a bigger role in buildings in the future. And that means more planning, more communication between everyone providing services for the building. And I mean, at least all kinds of competences we did put into this new profession have been covered more or less by, and I said we did a mix-up, by the professions we provided before. But we figured out that we really have to create a new profile of a competence in order to address what we need on the market. What kind of qualification and competences do we really need to integrate all those kinds of systems in the future? And we also created this new profession because we figured out that we need different people, because it's more sophisticated, more knowledge it's not a craft as we understand it, or as we did have it in the history. So it's more brain work. So we need more higher educated people. We also try to address people coming from the universities, and try to get those kinds of people into our sector. Next slide, please. Yeah, training fields. There's a huge, lot of knowledge has to be covered to become a building system integrator. Just take the next slide, please. There's a in a nutshell, the content is analyzing building technology systems. Very important, carrying out the interdisciplinary technical planning and integration. So it's not only about light, what we did before, it's also about heating, it's about mobility, charging, it's about all the technology in the building. We have to grade it in the energy management or in an automation system. And fields of activity is all the technology occurring in the building. And also we are not only talking about the building, but also talking about industry appliances, industry companies, IT system houses, as well as technical building equipment providers. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is about the structure of the training and the framework plan. Once again, it has been very important for us to address the cross-disciplinary system design. So installing energy supply and distribution, network technology, data security. Very important. Everything about cyber security will be very important for the buildings in the future. Programming, parameterization, planning, documentation, optimize and maintain. Also maintaining will be a major role in the future because digital systems have to be maintained completely different to maintaining the systems on site. There will be much more much more maintaining from your company, and you have to integrate the building systems you have in the field in a system you have in your company. Next slide, please. In Germany, very important is that we cover the regulations. So we had to adjust the profession so that it covers some regulation, and we call it in Germany the Elektrofachkraft, which is very important and required by labor assurance and organizations. And the employer, if he sends someone out to do the work, he always has to check if the person is qualified to do that. So the professions we set up also give the employer, it takes risks from the employer in deciding that. So next slide, please. We are pushing to get the new profession into the market. We are using social media, YouTube videos. We have a 360-degree video clip. You can watch it on VR glasses. So we try to address the young people by using new technology also. I think that's very important because the old communication paths are not working anymore. We have to meet the young people where they are, and that's mainly in social media. Next slide. We are running a huge campaign, also not only attracting our core group, young men. that will not be enough in the future. We have to address all the women. I always say we are taking or putting beside 50% of the people in Germany, and we have to address also the women to be able to cover all the work we want to provide in the future. So everything in our campaign is also designed to also attract women. So next slide, it's the end. Thanks for your listening. Just want to say that also Tim from the European Commission said that it's very important that we understand that there will be life learning, but I want to point out that it's also very important to understand right now what kind of competences will we need. You talked about green transition and digitalization, and I mean, there has been a very interesting development in Germany because of the judgment of the High Court here in Germany, which said that we have to accelerate everything because of taking care of the future of the kids. So, but what is that causing? If ever you are accelerating things, or as we figured out right now, we and you said it, what we achieved in 29 years, now we have to achieve in 10 years. So if we are accelerating everything, we have to take care in getting the right profiles, the right people, and enough workforce. And every measure you take, in the end, has the come out that we need workforce in our sector, and we need the right competences, because life learning is the right thing, but if we do the wrong learning in the beginning and the wrong life learning, we are sitting on the wrong horse. So my summary is that we really have to figure out which technology do we need in the future, what is green transition, what kind of energy are we going to use, and if we know that, and if there's the right decision about that, then we have to teach the people and the young people the right things and the correct competences. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Tim, if you want to reply, I suggest to give you the floor first during the Q&A session. I'm just trying to continue with the presentations, but please, I'll come back to you if you wish.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you very much, Alexander, for the presentation and for the update indeed on the court ruling. I think it's really relevant to bring this in the debate today. So now I'd like to turn to our next guest. We have two speakers for the next speaking slots. And so we will engage with Claudia Reiner, who is the CEO of Caris Reiner, but she's also the Vice President of Techniek Nederland, the Electrical and Mechanical Association in the Netherlands, which is a member of GCP Europe and EuropeOn. And she's here today with Jan Cromwijk, who is project coordinator at ISSO. ISSO is sorry for the pronunciation, ISSO is a research institute. And I understand that they are driving one of the Build Up Skills programs in the Netherlands. Build Up Skills is a Europe-EU project. So really eager to hear from both of you. And so I think I'll give the floor first to Claudia.
Well, Julie, thanks a lot for the introduction. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend all afternoon, so I couldn't hear all the speakers. Yeah, you already introduced myself, and I was also a member in the Klimaatakkoord, the architecture of the plans of building environment, and the design and plans for the labor market, human capital, and education. And as a matter of fact, I'm still participating in the implementation of these plans, which is a huge agenda for the entire industry. Well, my title of the presentation of today is Quality of Craftsmanship. And Julie, you are my second partner today for the slides.
Yes, we are showing them just now. I just wanted to let you know, we can't see you on screen. I don't know if there's a problem with your camera. We hear you perfectly well, but we cannot see you. Yes, now we can.
Can you see me now? Yes.
Yeah,
oh.
Excellent. Okay, let's go.
Well, the next slide, please, Julie. Yes, and then the next two. Well, the jobs in our industry will transform fast and constantly, far more than other industries. Everywhere in Europe, we have to train and educate skills from both incoming as already participating workforce. So we have to start and keep on doing that continuously in the coming period. Every single EU country has its own challenge in educating and green and digital skills, but also working in new perspectives with new requirements in sometimes unfamiliar context. The basics remain, like Alexander already said, but the additional skills and requirements will rapidly change. I will focus on current craftsmanship and the way we recognize and value craftsmanship. And Jan, my partner, will focus more on future craftsmanship and how we face this towards national challenges like the Climate Accord and the Europe challenges in terms of the Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package. Like I already said, it is important to recognize craftsmanships, and how we do that? Well, I will lead you through the context of the current situation in our country, and I am sure that you will recognize a lot of this. However, I am more curious if you recognize this indeed. Well, our method we distinguish following things in the context of craftsmanship. Our method of qualification is diverse. There is no one size fits all yet. But a lot of professions will change due to new technologies and regulations, and companies and industries also require non-technical skills such as hospitality and customer communication, but also digital skills. But we still need a lot of regular training based on basic skills and knowledge. So this means that continuous retraining is necessary more than ever before. The labor market is changing rapidly. In some industries, there's a huge shortage. In other, technology takes over, human labor. So for this reason, employee mobility is a hot topic and necessary. So we need to distinguish on quality and topicality. We cannot predict everything. So today we transform from gas, for example, to heat pumps and electrification, but perhaps future plans in our country will lead us to green hydrogen. Quality remains spot on in every single phase. We explored already new ways of educating and learning during COVID. So there's also many possibilities for e-learning, validation and examination. And there is also an increasing number of certifications and competency requirements. Well, so far the context. Can you show me the next slide, Julie? Well, I already said something about the current transition in building environment. Now let me share our visions on the industry and the professional workers in the industry. And let me start with the inside of the industry. Well, our vision is that the industry plays an important role in societal challenges such as climate change and the energy transition, but also in terms of other challenges, for example, mobility and health. Think about the smart building development for cure and care healthcare. The industry is adaptive to new technologies and market development, and its companies and professionals stand for quality and are therefore appreciated. While we face those societal challenges in a serious way and support our companies and their workforce to train and educate the people working in the companies toward current and new skills. Therefore, our vision in terms of professionals working in the industry. We strongly believe and require that professionals are and remain up-to-date, trained, and stand for quality. That learning and development is valued, and that learning actions and transactions count and are validated. That learning and development can be done everywhere and in many forms and systems. And an interesting development in our country is learning and working in a PPP approach. So this means that therefore everyone knows where he or she stands, where he or she is going, and what options he or she has to do that. Can I have the next slide, Julie? Well, this shows an overview of qualifications and competences. Young people start with initial and formal post-initial qualifications. There is a continuous dialogue going on about the content of initial and post-initial education. Then we have the industry qualifications with all the various sectors, relevant certificates, but also training on the job is an element in that specific way. And the last phase is acquired experience gained by training and learning transactions. The next slide, Julie. How do we do that? Now, the next slide. We developed a structure where we define, record, examine, register, and show craftsmanships. And therefore, we process new development based on new technologies, regulations, and requirements. The Commission of Craftsmanships will determine requirements, and experts will define end terms. There's a constant feedback loop on this process. And this results in specific routings for craftsmanships. The next slide, Julie. Well, Jan, I would like to invite you to tell something about this slide. Can you come in already?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Claudia. And one of the proofs that it can work in that way, just like Claudia explained, is our platform Vakmanschap Techniek, where we invite people to develop themselves and encourage their development. And they can do that as an employee, as a self-employed person, and as an employer. And due to free short e-learning, we trigger their attention, and after that they can follow a way through the system to acquire their formal recognition that can be shown in the accreditation or recognition register. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jan. And the next slide, Julie. Well, the next step is to bring all those data together in a platform called the so-called Central Register Techniek. This means unambiguous definitions of craftsmanships for the entire industry and its stakeholders, with accessibility of training and demonstrating craftsmanship. It is also an open standard and an open system for market providers. The message of today is that learning doesn't stop. Permanent learning and development is part of conditions from today and tomorrow. Well, at this point, I will pass the word to my colleague Jan for the next part of the presentation, and Jan will focus on future craftsmanships.
Thank you, Claudia, for handing over, and I will try to keep up the speed. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is, yes, thank you. I will share my story about developing green skills in the Dutch construction sector and our involvement in the Europe's Build of Skills initiative. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. The Build of Skills initiative is already quite old. It started in 2011 within Intelligent Energy Europe. and it has taken place in all the member states. And it led to national qualification programs, status quo analysis, national roadmaps, 22 projects on national qualification and training programs, and within Horizon 2020, also quite a number of qualification and training programs. And it's very important to mention, as we are in a transition, you have to have a long-term strategy. And within the Build of Skills initiative, Europe enables us to lay the groundwork for the coming 20 or 30 years. And I'm very happy that within the LIFE program, this work can be continued with a first call published on Build of Skills rebooting the national platforms and roadmaps. And I really would like to nudge all EuropeOn members to hook on to the national teams that want to elaborate proposal for this kind of work. Next slide. Yeah, this is the call within the LIFE program. The deadline is in January, at the start of January next year. And within this call, you are able to create your national platform with all the key national stakeholders to find out what are the key elements and what are the key skills needed for the coming 10 years within the energy transition, digitization, circularity, climate adaptation, and so on, to update the status quo analysis and to craft national roadmaps to underpin a strategy to fill in the gaps that are still existing within the educational infrastructure for skilling and upskilling. Next. And within the Netherlands, we have had quite a lot of experience with identification of skill gaps within those Build of Skills projects. You have a craftsman working from day to day, and what we see is that each craftsman needs a circle of additional soft skills and interdisciplinary skills, or so-called cross-craft skills. And for example, for the electrician, there is a multitude of technology and new stuff that is important when you want to play a sustainable role in a sustainable and just energy transition. And by identifying those skill gaps, we make the individual learning journeys for persons possible. Next slide, please. And one of the means we are using for that is the so-called Build of Skills Advisor app. And as you can see, it all centers around the professional or the craftsman in play, doing his or her work. And with the app, we are guiding each person working in the sector to find out how fit they are for the energy transition, what are the specialisms that are interesting for them, and how much they already know about those specialisms. And we connect them to e-learning and to traditional training courses in order to upskill themselves and to earn the recognition that can be shown, for example, in an app or in the central register Techniek in the Netherlands. Next, please. We are also working quite hard at addressing skill gaps with micro-learning. And to do so, we work with the ECVET system, the European credit system for vocational education and training, and especially on the units of learning outcomes, because you need a very granular and detailed set of unit of learning outcomes in order to enable digital learning systems to assess learning outcomes, to validate learning outcomes, to recognize learning outcomes, and to make micro-learning possible. And last but not least, to feed the learner's transcripted record that is summarized your personal track record or your personal learning story. Next, please. To guide people, we have the so-called Build Up Skills Advisor app. It is available in the Netherlands. We also have a European version with English content, and several European countries such as Ireland, Spain, France, Austria, Bulgaria, Hungary are working on national implementations of this app. Within the app, you are guided by your profession through the possibilities you have to develop yourself. And next slide, please. And to the free e-learnings we are providing, and those e-learnings are currently in Dutch, as you can see, for example, on solar PV. But we also have short micro-learnings that are more visual oriented in order to nudge craftsmen that love to work with visuals to find what is going wrong in this case and what can be done better. Next slide. We will also use this app in several European projects, and one of them we will try to use them in do-it-yourself stores and within the hardware stores where the craftsmen are buying their stuff to train themselves on the spot. And when they do an exercise like this, we connect that to the register where the individual trainers' training record is stored, so that they can be awarded on it, for example, to prove that they are not only certified, but after certification, they are still orienting, learning, and proving they have the right skills. Next, please. Another one is the importance of digitization, and what you see here is that in France we are working within the Bus League project to couple the learning interactions to the BIM model in order to connect the digital world with the real world and to connect the digital world with the training interventions. Next. Within See the Skills,
Jan, just to let you know that we need to conclude very soon the presentation. Sorry, that's for the sake of time. Thank you.
Nearly done. Nearly done. Within See the Skills, we work on several tools and connecting them, because you are not learning in one app or in one e-learning system or in one register. You are learning in an ecosystem. So we make them visible. Next slide. We validate them. And next slide. We value them by making them visible in several apps and several digital badges and transaction systems. Next, please. In order to empower installers to move faster than we do and to sustain the built environment. Next slide. An overview with the examples from the past and the ongoing projects, and they will be shared within the presentation deck, so you can look at them later. Next slide. And I'm proud because some of the projects are doing better than others, and we are awarded for the Energy Sustainable Week of Europe, and feel free to vote for our projects, and please do that after viewing the video. Thanks a lot for your attention, and sorry that we had so much to tell you from the Netherlands.
But thank you. Sorry that it's always a bit of a constraint when we have presentations, and happy to go vote just after the presentation, definitely. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Claudia. And so I want to turn to our last panelist today. We are going north, we are going to Sweden. Hi, Per. Good to see you. So Per is Senior Policy Advisor at the Mechanical and Electrical Association in Sweden. I'm not going to say the name each time, it's an embarrassment. You will talk about skills in a circular economy. And so I'll give you the floor. I just wanted to comment on one thing. We had a call a few weeks ago with the US Association of Electrical Contractors, and I was asking them what they were doing on circularity, and they asked me, "What are you talking about? What is circularity?" And so apparently it's not an English term; it's an EU term, which is well understood now across Europe, but not so much in the US. So really looking forward to your insight.
Yeah, that's a good start, because we've listened to really excellent presentations the whole afternoon. And Tim, you stole most of my presentation, so I don't feel the need to do it again. And Jan's presentation was really interesting. So I think I will get in touch with Jan afterwards and try to create a longer meeting where we can discuss this. And that's really my take on this, that we need to find a way to continue to move forward. And we've been trying to do that in Sweden at Installatörsföretagen with a report, and I will show you just 2 slides with the challenges that we're trying to address. Because this is the BIM wheel that we have all seen. Every construction process starts with an idea. There's usually some kind of procurement, and then we have to raise the building, we have to service and sustain it, and then we need to demolish it, and we need to do this in the framework of a circular thinking. But this is really difficult, because we come from a reality where we used to work in rather linear processes. We are used to work in analog processes. And these processes usually emit a lot of carbon dioxide, and we need to get rid of that. Earlier today, we learned that somewhere between 35 and 40% of all the emissions comes from buildings. But on the other hand, we also learned earlier today that it's possible to raise buildings where you have more plants and greenery, 2.5 times more than the surface that is covered by the building. So if you use the sides of the building, if you use the roof, you can create more garden than what you stole from the soil that you're building. And you have a lot of these interesting examples. Up north, we are building a factory for carbon-free steel making. This, of course, uses a lot of electricity. And we will use green hydrogen to dry this, but there's a lot of positive things happening. But we need to find a way to meet all these challenges. Alexander showed us a very good way to address skills in the electrical sector, and also Jan and Claudia showed us how to work in a systematic way to improve people's skills, because we not only need to train new people, we need to relearn all the time. And then we can not only look at the education system, we also need to look at the workplace, because this is where you spend most of your time. So we need to create environments where you can learn a lot while you're working. And I find that the installation sector is rather good at this, because we always call a friend. We always meet challenges that we can't solve, so we need to call a colleague. So we have a lot of learning in our sector, but we need to do it more systematically. And all things considered, this challenge is rather big, and you can see all the driving trends from a rather static to a flexible energy system, from linear to circular solutions, from no clue to security awareness, and so on. But I still think that we have all the pieces in place, and I think that EuropeOn has done really good work at giving us a lot of instruments to deal with this challenge. But after this meeting, I would really urge everybody to send questions, ideas, links, whatever to me, so we can continue to work with this in the skills group that I'm rather engaged in. But moving on, we have an even bigger challenge. Next picture, please. Because we might have an idea on how to do this in the construction sector. And there's a lot of funding around. I think roughly 50% of all the EU funding concerns the construction sector. And at least in Sweden, more than 50% of all public procurement concerns the construction sector. But to create a new energy system, I heard several initiated speakers talk about that we need to enlarge the grid with a factor of 2.5. And we need to renovate all the grid that was built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So we have a huge challenge when it comes to the grid. And there's simply not enough people to do that. We also need to train people in the public sector so they know how to procure in an innovative way. I think we all have suffered from procurement where they are only asking for the lowest price. But if we want to really manage this, we need to look at the highest possible value when it comes to Fit for 55. And since everybody has said so many interesting things, from Tim to Jan, I will finish here and just hope that you will get in touch with me, and so we can continue to do whatever we can to really be fit for 55 when we reach 55 in 24 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And indeed, I put your email address in the chat box as you asked me. So, well, if you receive tons of emails, you were warned. You asked first.
Yes,
we are coming at the end of this session. I want to thank all of our panelists. If there is a question now, please write right now in the question box. It's on the right-hand side. And if not, we'll have to conclude very shortly, so I can take one question. I'm waiting a few seconds for you. I guess the question is, when is the weekend? The weekend is coming very soon. Yeah, I'm also hoping for that. So without further ado, then again, thank you for all of our thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to our attendees. I know that we still have many people here, so it was, even if you don't have questions, I know that you've been very interested and you stayed with us until the end. And I would like now to turn to Claire Grossman. Claire Grossman is the Secretary-General of GCP Europe, and she will have the tremendous task to do the conclusion. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Julie. So yeah, also from my side, I would like to give a big thanks to our speakers and panelists for providing us with such stimulating discussion. And thanks also to the audience for your participation today. I think that you will all agree that we learned a lot from this very interesting presentations, best practices, concrete examples, but also inspiring testimony from Dani Gerber. And as explained, skills is a huge topic for our sector, and that's also why we are working together on this issue. It covers many topics like creating green jobs, upscaling workers, attracting new talent, improving the image of the profession, developing soft skills, women in the sector. But we also heard from Mr. Schreiber how green skills are essential to ensure a successful and fair transition. And also, as mentioned by MEP Sean Kelly in the first session, member states must invest on upskilling and reskilling policies to realize a green and digital transition. Promoting skills and education in the construction and energy efficiency sectors is crucial. So this is about the challenges faced by our sectors, of course, but also the huge opportunities. So thanks again for joining us today, and looking forward to seeing you at the next event.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you all. And I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. Actually, I made a promise to Tim Schreiber that he would be able to reply to Alexander earlier today. So please, Tim, if you want to give us a reply, we'd be very interested to hear it.
Yes, sure. I'm happy to have the closing words. I will try to live up to the challenge. No, to quickly respond to Alexander, I totally agree that it's very important to know exactly what are the skills needed today and also in the future. Also us in the Commission, we made this point very clearly in this European skills agenda that I mentioned a few times before, that what we call skills intelligence is very important. So the analytical task to identify what are the skills needs. We have an EU agency called ZVEH that has a long-reaching tradition in doing skills forecast, skills intelligence EU-wide. But it's also clear that this is a process that is not purely analytical with statistical models, but that works together with social partners, with employers, with trade unions, with other stakeholders. So we also encourage you on national, regional, local level to get involved in this kind of exercise. And we also encourage member states again and again to really base their work on so-called skills intelligence. Of course, the more you look into the future, the more difficult it is to have an idea what will be the skills needs. And for this, there is now more and more the so-called foresight methodology applied, so that there are different scenarios developed. What will be policy decisions? Because you said correctly that it depends also on which are the energy sources that we will use. And these are basically political decisions, which today we might not have full knowledge about. So these foresight exercises develop different scenarios and then try to look into what each scenario would mean in terms of skills needs, in terms of changes on the labor market. And there also the Commission is now working more and more in this field. So just to give you a brief overview of what we do, but to fully agree with what you said.
Okay, well, thank you all. We had an issue with time, but in the end we are finishing on time. So that's really because electrical and mechanical contractors are problem solvers once more. So well done, all of you. Thank you again for our attendees. And well, yeah, go enjoy the weekend. Thank you a lot. Have a great end of the week and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Good weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.